Namaste and good evening, Brigadier Mehta, Brigadier BalramSMehta, and welcome to the Experience School Convos with inspiring authors that we have every Sunday. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
We are live on Facebook, and a warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us as audience on Facebook Live to listen in to Brigadier Mehta as he discusses his book, The Burning Chaffies. So, Brigadier Mehta, to begin with, like we do with all the authors who, participate in the author experience conversations every Sunday. If we had to get rid of all your titles, all the laurels and the awards and accolades that you won over the years, and ask Brigadier BalramSMehta that if we had to put you in a spot and ask you to give us 7 descriptors that define you as an individual in the best possible way, what would those descriptors be? When I say 7 descriptors, this is from a psychological study called the Johari window, which is about self-awareness, ontology, the science of being who we are. If I had to, ask you to give us those descriptors could be, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, roles, responsibilities, values, principles that define you as an individual in the best possible way. So what would those 7 descriptors be? It could be one word or a set of words. This is part of the this was not part of the question, so this is what we spring as a surprise.
So one will have to think of the 7 because
yes, that's the whole idea, sir.
7 adjectives on oneself,
right?
But I can start by saying determined, honest, innovative.
Okay, honest, innovative. All right.
I can add hardworking. Yes.
Okay.
Not hardly working, but hardworking.
right. Hardworking. Okay.
Flexible.
Okay.
Compassionate.
Okay. That's 6. I'm counting.
Okay. What else can I add?
Determined, honest, innovative, hardworking, flexible, compassionate, and
go-getter.
Okay, fine. That's 7. The magnificent 7, as we call them. So determined, honest, innovative, hardworking in an era when most people talk about hardworking, and I'm very happy that you shared that as a great value and a principle. And then you said not hardly working, but hardworking, because today in most rhetoric in most organizations, especially in the corporate world, is don't work hard, work smart. What is the reason that you value hard work so much? Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, I can give you the start point being my school itself. When I was in class 7,
right,
we had I'd done badly in class 6.
Okay.
There was a teacher of mine by the name of Mrs. De Silva. She encouraged me and she said, look, you are capable. And she goaded me on. And at the end of the year, I got the hardworking prize.
Okay.
So why I'm still using the word hardworking instead of being smart?
Right.
Because in the military environment,
right,
smart doesn't work because, it doesn't play out because you are interacting with troops.
Right.
You are interacting with human beings.
Right.
You're interacting with people whose life depends on you.
Right. Absolutely.
And you're not just doing it for your own selfish reason.
Right.
Where to be smart will give you, ascendancy over and benefits.
Absolutely
You're
true.
working for a larger cause.
Absolutely true.
Where the need to be smart is less important.
Very nice.
To be working hard and to be seen as working hard.
And very, very well said and very well explained, sir. It's not that smart work does not just work only in the armed forces and that space or sector. It does not work in any sector. And I always say that, if you replace hard work with smart work, we will have a generation of fixers and jugadus, because those are all short-term fixes which won't be sustainable, right? Which won't last the long term. And that's why hard work can never be replaced by smart work. Smart work can complement hard work, but hard work is irreplaceable. There is a coach called John Wooden who used to teach basketball. And in his entire tenure as a coach, John Wooden, who was also a brilliant basketball player, champion in his own right, never taught the players basketball. He would say, basketball. I'm going to teach you values, principles. And the two cornerstones of what he created as a success pyramid, the two cornerstones are industriousness, hard work, and enthusiasm. And it's to always say, if these two cornerstones are missing, you are not going far in this game. You're not going far in the journey of your life. And he would always tell them that, don't worry about success. Success is not in your hands. Failure is surely in your hands. So he would always tell them, give it your best. And his entire concept of winning was that not that you won the game. At the end of the game, whether you lost the game or you won the game, ask yourself, did I give it my best? Did I put in my best effort? And if the answer is no to that, then you really need to work on yourself and pull up your socks. So that was Coach John Wooden. And I'm very happy that you started with this, because this is a great lesson for all our youngsters who keep listening to this rhetoric of don't work hard, work smart. Hard working can never be replaced by smart work. Can be complemented, but not replaced. So Brigadier Mehta, to begin with,
Jerry, can I interrupt for a minute?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask.
Jerry, no, I'm saying it with a specific purpose.
Right.
Why I agree with you is hard work is the basic foundation.
Absolutely,
or the
sir.
basic approach.
Absolutely agree.
Like you said, there are occasions when you have to combine being smart with hard work.
Right.
So if you've done your hard work before, and why I interrupted you was, my experience also takes me to the government of Gujarat. I've also been with the central government organization called the Cabinet Secretariat.
Right.
And I've also been a vice chancellor of a university.
Right.
Where I find that we had a larger percentage of smart people,
right,
without the essential foundation of hard work.
Very
so what
nice.
You're saying is absolutely right.
Thank you, sir.
And I think
Thank you.
many of us sports persons confirm this particular belief.
Right.
The foundation has to be hard work.
Right.
But there will be occasions when you need to be smart too.
Right, absolutely. And since you use the analogy of sports people, it's like, a sports person cannot fake it and, build abs and muscles with some steroids and stuff like that. He needs to work hard on his physique, because in that race, you won't last. You won't have the stamina if you're not really worked hard on building your physique and building your abilities and capacity. So I think that's exactly how hard work can never be replaced by smart work. To move on, sir, with every author, we always ask them to tell us about their life story and their journey of life, right from childhood to what you're doing now. I mean, you're doing some prolific work, not just with your books, but you've done some great work when you were in the army, and now you're doing great work teaching soldiers entrepreneurship. You are inspiring the youth to join the army. So what is it that inspired you? So we would like to know from you your life story, right from childhood to now, in the next 9 to 10 minutes. Take your time, and the virtual stage is all yours. Over to you. Over to you, Brigadier.
Okay.
I must also tell you at this time that we have a pleasant surprise which will be sprung on you at around 8 o'clock this evening. Yes.
Okay.
Over to you. So your 9 minutes start now. 9 to 10 minutes. Take your time.
Thank
I won't
you.
stop
I
you.
don't know if it will last 9 minutes. I don't know. But however, let me start without losing time.
Yes.
On April 1945, in a place called Bhaun, which is part of Jhelum, now in Pakistan, not very far from Rawalpindi. Born there, and soon after, the partition of the country displaced us, and we had to come into Pune. My father was in the Defense Account Service at that time, so it wasn't that we had to go via the refugee camps, but Pune, we came straight to the Shri Sahu Palace, and even before one was 3 years old, there was this the raiders in Jammu and Kashmir. So what I'm trying to get at is that in our growing up years, we did hear a lot about massacre and killings. And the place where I was born was actually the cradle of military in United India. This carried on from Pune. We finally moved on to Allahabad and on to Jabalpur, where in 1953 my father passed away at a young age. And the responsibility came on to my mother. We shifted to Lucknow. What we had to do here was we had to live the life without the father. But the mother was a very strong lady, very practical. She was educated in one of the missionary schools in Rawalpindi, and she was very clear-minded. At that time, the pension was only for 5 years, and that was also limited to 150 rupees. Having lost everything in Pakistan at the time of partition, her being practical and being wise helped the family, and virtually she made the family the purpose of her life. We have 5 brothers and a sister, and she decided that she will teach us till class 10. After that, the boys will be on their own, and the girls will go in for higher education and become economically independent. So life continued, and in Lucknow, we were admitted into the St. Francis High School, where by the time we did our pre-seniors and high school, we joined the National Defense Academy. Now, in the National Defense Academy, just before which I joined in 1962. In 1962, the Chinese had invaded India, and a little before that, a little before joining school, a very interesting thing happened. In school, there was a friend of mine by the name of Ching Kong. He was a Chinese. And he and I had gone to the Lucknow railway station to cheer for Chow and Lai, who had come to India under the guise of Hindu Chini Bhai Bhai. And then, of course, the 62 attack took place. While in the academy, we heard about Brigadier Roshar Singh moving up to command a brigade. And I had one particular leg in plaster, playing football at that time. But then on this second term break, when I went back to Lucknow, I visited the military hospital to realize the amount of defeat and disgust the Chinese and the weaknesses as far as India is concerned. However, time passed on in the academy, and in 1965, we were in the IMA when the 1965 war took place. Now, why I'm mentioning 62 and 65 is, having come from a military environment, and the fact that a mother told us till class 10, and our father's dying wish was that his children should join the defense forces. So here was a case that in 1966, I was able to pick up a commission. And by the time it was 1971, the family had 4 into the defense forces and 1 in the rear waiting to be selected in the SSB interview when the 1971 war took place. A little before the war, I was posted to Ahmednagar, and I still remember on our journey to Delhi, we had 3 officers traveling together. One was Mallu Malhotra from Pune House, other was Kutab Hai and self. Here what I want to share with you is the spirit as far as the young officers are concerned, and even the ladies are concerned. From Manmad, we traveled in a saloon which belonged to Kutab Hai's father, and we were invited into the saloon for lunch. And this is what Mrs. Hai had to share with us. What she said was, she was a lady from Hyderabad. She said, look, I'm very happy that my son understands his duty towards his regiment and towards his country. And when I told her of my experience of what I had seen about the refugees in 1971, before the war started, and the fact that 4 of us were on the frontier and 1 in the rear, she was most taken in. And through her expressions and to her feelings, the way she expressed them, I was able to realize what a difficult time my own mother must be going through. Then, of course, the war took place, and 77, I got married to a lady from Bhavnagar. Her father was also from the defense, Major General Gancham Singh. And later, I was a little disappointed at the end of the war of certain developments that had taken place. So I shifted off to RNAW. I did a stint there. And then in 1984, I was recalled by General Vaidya to raise 13 Armoured Regiment. Now, this was an interesting phase of my life because 13 Armoured Regiment was given a class composition of Sikhs. This was immediately after Blue Star, of Sikhs, Rajputs, and South Indian classes. It was a combination which was unknown in Indian military history. The other challenge as far as this regiment is concerned was the number 13 itself, as also the fact that the tank allotted to us was a Vijayanta tank. And the number was 13, and this particular class composition. However, this was a challenge because my earlier regiment only had South Indian classes and other Indian classes. One took on this particular challenge and converted it into a big opportunity in life. But the starting point was how to get this thought of 13 being an unlucky number out of the minds of people, and how to convert Vijayanta from being understood as a non-runner into an excellent tank. We did that because at that particular meeting itself, the first meeting of the troops who had come in, about 80, 90 of them, one of the Sikh boys said, he used something from the Guru Granth Sahib, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji had said, Tera sab tera. That means nothing belongs to us, everything in the name of God. So we utilize this Tera sab tera as virtually our motto and raise this particular regiment, which in 1987 had to take part in brass tacks. Now, this was area. It was a regiment which was raised for the plains, but now suddenly had to operate in the desert at very, very short notice. But we didn't give up, and we again converted this into an opportunity. And here I'd like to share with you how a small innovation can go a long way. The Vijayanta doesn't have at that particular point in time, it did not have a navigation aid. There was no navigation equipment fitted onto the tank. So what I had done was, I visited the local Air Force station and borrowed a compass which is used in lighter aircraft called the compass 4GB. So when I met my general officer commanding, one General Pillai, he asked me, he says, in fact, I've described this to say that he was taken aback. He said, you're a new raising, you've never trained in the desert, and you don't have any navigation equipment. How will I use your regiment? I said, sir, it's very simple. I brought a compass with me, 4GB. I will lead and your division can follow. So this, it was something which was misunderstood. But then I explained to him that we can convert the PT-76 semi-gyros, which are lying in a workshop in Pune. And we were able to get that. And with some help from the DIV headquarters, we fitted these compasses onto the Vijayanta tanks. And we did more than 600 kilometers during that particular exercise and won a name for the regiment itself. Now, this was as part of the military, this thing. I later picked up my rank, did the higher command course at the War College, and then commanded a brigade. And in 98, I took premature retirement and joined the government of Gujarat. While with the government of Gujarat, I, within a month of my arrival, I one day walked across to the Entrepreneurship Development Institute and met Mr. V.G. Patel, Dr. V.G. Patel. to ask him as to why he's not running a course for retiring defense personnel. So he, in fact, was, quite surprised by my presence there and the question that I had raised. He said, "Look, I've done a complete study on this particular on the defense officers, and I can tell you." And he showed me that particular report, which virtually amounted to that out of 21 qualities that he had listed, defense officers were good in 19 qualities. Their only weakness was that they had no idea about finances and they had no idea about financial planning and entrepreneurship. So within 3 months of that, I was able to get the funds from the Ministry of Defense, and we ran the first entrepreneurship course for retiring defense employees, which then became the forerunner because EDI is supported by 4 financial institutions. This then became the forerunner for IIM courses, which are run across the country today by IIM. Similarly, there were a number of other innovations that we were able to undertake. For example, during the Gujarat earthquake, right? Just to give you another example of how sometimes being smart or being innovative can help. When the earthquake took place, I was in Gandhinagar and I walked across to the senior most officer, the Southwestern Air Chief, General Air Marshal Bhatia. And I requested him for an aircraft to invite my friends from Surat, who were mostly diamond merchants and bankers, to say, look, if you give me an aircraft, we'll arrange some help for about 40 families of Bhuj Air Base, which had been wiped out completely. And sure enough, I was able to convince him. We got the aircraft and we were able to put 3 crores together in 3 months' time and help those 40 families. Just to give you this particular part of it. I finished my stint with the government of Gujarat. I was then invited to join the Maharishi group, which I did. I actually revived 2 of the universities of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, one in Jabalpur and the other in Bilaspur. I was with them for virtually 18 years. And then I took premature retirement because my regiment, 45 Cavalry, was celebrating the Golden Jubilee. And they reminded me of a commitment that I had made in 1971, that one day I will write about the valor and bravery of the soldiers and the tank crews. And I was able to honor my commitment. The book was displayed during the Golden Jubilee. Soon after it was published. And then, of course, it was picked up by Siddharth Roy Kapoor in Bombay and gave rise to PIPA. So this I can't call it a nutshell, in a long monologue, what I wanted to share with you about my life as yet.
And so well narrated. You're an excellent storyteller. So thank you for that. We got a glimpse into your life and what inspired you to join the army, and very illustrious family, because a lot of responsibility to undertake as an entire family. And how old were you when your father passed?
I was 7 years old.
7. I empathize with you because I was also 7 years old when my father passed, and I always say I am who I am and what I am today because of my mother, who worked very hard to give me a good life and a good education. And I think that kind of puts that burden of responsibility on your shoulders to do something worth a while. Sir,
Yes.
you spoke about the Entrepreneurship Development Institute and how you started the first course for army officers, which then became the foundation for the IIMs today. Which year was this in?
This was in the year 2000.
2000. And
no, 1999.
1999. But so how did this become the foundation for IIM? Because IIMs were there much before that.
Yeah, IIMs were there well before that, a
Right.
number of them, in fact. But nobody was running a course for retiring defense personnel.
Right. So the course that you created for the retired personnel is what became the foundation over there.
Yes, because it was financed by these four for financial institutions,
Right.
including NABARD and State Bank of India.
Right.
So that is, and many of the managing committee of the EDI
Mm-hmm.
contains some very well-established entrepreneurs and business magnates.
Right.
So that is how the word went around,
Right.
because what Dr. V.G. Patel had done was
Mm-hmm.
a complete study on the talent and potential of defense officers.
Right. Oh, so the next question I want to ask you was about the 21 qualities that you spoke about. What are the 21 qualities which
21 qualities. I mean, I cannot list the entire this thing to
right,
you,
but
but there
some
are
of
things
the
like
ones which you can
character,
recollect. Character.
integrity, honesty,
Okay.
initiative, like that. He on his own, in his own study,
Mm-hmm.
he has worked out 21 qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And the two which were missing, as
Right.
far as the defense officers are concerned,
Right.
was financial planning and management. And he gave me
Right.
a very interesting example, which I'd like to share with you,
Right.
which also will tell you the difference between the army system of working
Right.
and the IAS and the civilian bureaucrat. Here, what happens is that for even a small amount, that is what Dr. B.G. Patel told me, which is also true, that as a captain and a major, if 500 rupees, I'm talking of 20 years, 30 years earlier,
Right.
even if 500 rupees was to be sanctioned, right, you have to put up a note to your next superior, who in turn would recommend it and put it up to the commanding officer,
Right.
because the commanding officer had financial powers of 500 rupees.
Right.
When this regiment was raised, the 13 Armoured Regiment was raised in 1984, right? The total contribution that each existing armored regiment was required to pay to a new raising was 500 rupees, because that is what was the financial power of the CO.
Right.
Whereas what he mentioned to us was that as far as the bureaucrat is concerned, within 4 or 5 years, he's got wide-ranging financial powers, right? And
Right.
therefore, he understands finance and is quick to take decisions also.
Right. Right. Brilliant. So, I mean, based on your work that you've been doing with retired defense personnel and trying to transform them into entrepreneurs, what do you think it is that actually creates a great entrepreneur? And the reason I ask this is because some of the things that you spoke about, character, integrity, initiative, discipline is another thing which is very important for an entrepreneur, and ethics, of course. And today, if you see, the entire game in entrepreneurship around India has changed. Most entrepreneurs nowadays talk about creating valuation. Very few are actually creating value, right? And I also do an entrepreneurship course called Anybody Can Do Entrepreneurship in schools and colleges, teaching them how anybody can become an entrepreneur, because we have grassroots people who become great entrepreneurs. So, and something which studies show you is that it is not your competence, talent, degrees, percentage, or titles that take you places and beyond. What takes you places and beyond is character. That character to stick your neck out, that character to take risk, that character to take on challenges, that character to be resilient, right? That character to understand that there will be obstacles, there will be hurdles, there will be hardships along the way, but never give up, right? You need to persevere, you need to be resilient. So today, you could see it with what's happening with Ashneer Grover of Bharat Pay, or with the entire, or all the IPOs of a Paytm or a Nykaa, which are crumbling today, because very few of them have actually created value. They've created valuation. So what are the things that you think makes when I say great entrepreneur, an entrepreneur who's sustainable, an entrepreneur who's creating value and not just valuation, because valuation is a byproduct of creating value and not the other way around. So what are your thoughts for our young entrepreneurs, sir? What is the making
Yeah,
of
I
a
could
good
share that
entrepreneur?
with you, but
Yeah,
before that, I must clarify, I am not into teaching entrepreneurship.
I appreciate, but
I started this particular thing because
I know
being a
that,
defense officer,
but
right?
having put it together,
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking you
yeah,
for your insights,
right.
because you're an
I
entrepreneur in your
feel,
own making.
yeah, that's so. Thank you. Detailed understanding of that particular subject is important.
Right.
Your ability to take risk is important, and your ability to put your heart and soul into that particular project by working, and understanding what the dynamics are. I think this is the important part of it. And today, in this particular environment, where so many facilities are being created for young people to step into this particular field, I think training and training and after training, keeping them being, creating an environment where they can be advised. That is what may lead to greater success as far as young entrepreneurs are concerned. But you're right in saying that instead of creating values, right, that part of it, I agree with you. There you are absolutely right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you for endorsing all our thoughts, because this is what we teach in our Anybody Can Do entrepreneurship programs to young students, starting from class 10 to graduation. And I must share with you, I mean, we in our country, though we come from an entrepreneurial background, our thinking was entrepreneurship and innovation in good old days. And somehow, because we don't like failure in our culture, we've killed the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. Because to innovate, to experiment, to stick your neck out, to do something different, to do something unique and innovative, you need to be able to fail, because you can't experiment without failing. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Absolutely right, 100% right, because it's a risky business and you have to take that particular risk if you want to progress. I've been in touch with a large number of people in Gujarat over the last 20 years. And I find that this entrepreneurial skill or this particular ability is far more embedded in them, as also in a large number of people from Rajasthan, the Marwari community. But I don't see it happening in parts of northern India as much or with the same intensity.
Right.
Because you have to take risks and you have to create value.
Absolutely, because if you're creating value, the valuation will just be a bubble, and that's been seen the world over nowadays. So that the valuation is a bubble, and we have a pleasant surprise for you before we go further into your books and your questions, and let the surprise take you by surprise, right? So here it is. So we have a very dear family member of ours and somebody you would know joining in. There they are. They've joined on the phone. So hello, Kitty auntie, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Oh no.
Oh, Kitty, of course, of course.
Nice to
Hi,
see
Kitty,
you.
how are you?
Hi,
Wow.
Bunny. How are you?
After all these years, to see the handsome figure of Teji Sidhu and Kitty.
I know.
Great.
Nice to see you.
But look at the reach of Jerry and his team.
It's a small world, sir. It's a small world.
Yeah.
And compliments to Jerry.
And I'm fortunate to be a part of the same
he's
family.
my nephew.
Oh, okay. Wow, what a small world and what a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely a small world.
What
And
a pleasant surprise.
since both of you are together now, I would like you to share some of your, reminisce some experiences from the 1971 war that you all were both engaged in, which is now both of y'all movies being made called Pippa, and we'll go into the book later on. But I have a small clip to show you about the 97 war, which was shared in our school alumni group yesterday. And the clip is like a 3-minute clip. And there were some mixed bag feelings and emotions of several schoolboys who said, no, this is not true. A lot of this is bunkum. So I would like your insights on this, about what was the American involvement with Pakistan? What was the Russian involvement with India? So let me show you this clip, both of you, and then we can have a little charcha around it, right? Without chai. There's no chai, but the charcha will continue. So here it is. Here's the clip, sir.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and
always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always...
So that was the clip, sir, which was circulating in my school group yesterday. And of course, a lot of people who are mostly civilians were, some were for it, some were saying, no, this is not true. A lot of it is bunkum. And nowadays in the era of, fake propaganda and several false memes and videos which float all over, I wanted your insight on this. What are your thoughts about America's involvement with Pakistan and how they tried to mobilize forces against us, and Russia's involvement with India? Please share your insight on this, both of you.
Yeah, I'll take it on first.
Yes, sir.
US involvement with Pakistan was based on a simple premise that at that time Richard Nixon was trying to get through to China, open the doors to China. Kissinger was the man, was the go-between, and Pakistan's Yahya Khan was helping them in this particular attempt.
Right.
They were succeeding, in fact. Now, this was the primary thing as far as USA is concerned. It is true that USA also, immediately after the Battle of Garibpur on 21st November 1971, the very next morning, Henry Kissinger was briefing President Nixon to say, sir, these, and they use some bad words in that, in fact, which is also been recorded, to say that these Indians are bastards anyway.
Oh, okay.
And the Mukti Bahini could not have launched an attack with tanks and aircraft. The truth, however, is that the government of India had taken a cabinet decision on 18th of November to say that our troops could go 10 kilometers across the international border because the Pakistanis were using their artillery all along the international border and creating a fair amount of casualties for us. So Kissinger's briefing to Nixon on that very day itself turned the tide against India because the US aid to India was immediately stopped, which affected our spares and other this thing. At the same time, unknown to many people, on the same day, a warning order was sent to the 7th Fleet that there may be a requirement for them to be deployed in the Arabian Sea. A number of other decisions were taken subsequently, which have all been recorded. And in between, you've shown this. The clip also says that some of the Middle East countries were to send aircraft and weapons and tanks to the Middle East. That part is 100% true.
Okay.
But it was not Nixon who was giving these orders. Kissinger in a separate, it's called the Washington Group.
Right.
To the Washington Group, he had given these directions, right? Informally, because arms aid to both the countries had been stopped.
Right.
But Kissinger encouraged these Middle East countries to send weapons and aircraft to Pakistan.
Right.
They also, the same group also had a separate meeting with the Chinese, and the Chinese were encouraged to do something on the Ladakh and on our eastern borders, so that some of our troops will have to be withdrawn.
Right.
But the Chinese are far more cleverer, so they kept making noises,
Right.
but they did nothing other than just recalling some of their reservists.
Right.
As far as the Russian support to India is concerned, it was very much there. It was 100%. And besides the vetoes, they did move their fleet, but unknown to the Americans and to the British, even while their 7th Fleet was moving in towards the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, the Soviets had also marshaled their fleet. And when the HMS Eagle was attempting to come anywhere close to the Arabian Sea, they were surprised and taken aback because the Russians were already there.
Okay.
But there is no case of Russia asking, a large number of other countries, or even threatening China
Right.
that they would attack in Xinjiang and other areas. That part of it is incorrect.
That part of it is incorrect. So that around 20% can be discounted from the video is what you're saying.
No, more than 20%. Actually, about 40 to 45%.
Right. 40 to 4. There's a lot of misinformation floating all around, and that's the reason I thought I would check with you. Any insights from you, sir? Teji uncle? You will have to unmute yourself. You will have to unmute yourself. Any insights from you on that video we just saw? And what are some of the memories, fond memories that you have working with Brigadier BalramSMehta? I think there is some net issues because they are in
Still on mute, perhaps.
They are in the village in Punjab.
Okay.
So I guess it's some net issues. Teji uncle, you'll have to unmute yourself. You'll have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Yes,
Hello.
yes, you're now unmuted. Go ahead. What are your insights on the video, and what are some of your fond memories working side by side alongside Brigadier Mehta during the 71 war?
It was a very good experience, and especially regarding your 7th Fleet. The old saying in Punjab used to be, if you have destroyed 6 fleets, let 7th also come.
Right. Okay. All right. So bring it on. Bring it on. Yes. Okay.
And as the war was going on, I was leading 45 Cavalry into the offensive, and we did wonders, and which no other regiment of Indian Army has done so far.
Excellent. Great. And I know both of you have a lot of mutual respect for each other. So thank you, Teji uncle, for joining in, and we shall go deeper into Brigadier Mehta's book now. So thank you and good night, Teji uncle.
Okay,
No,
bye.
but
All
before they
right.
leave,
Yes, yes.
Jerry, I'd like to add,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Teji is one of the bravest of the brave, and what he did during that particular battle is actually worthy of, formal recognition in the form of some Veer Chakra or, something of that particular nature.
Right,
But in tank battle, nobody gets to know who has actually done what. It
right,
is people sitting in the rear who are listening in on radio, and then, the thing going all the way up, and, some people get it and some deserving people don't get it.
right.
Another thing which I can share with you is,
Yes,
look at his bravery. He was injured, lying, it's been described in the book also.
right,
And he's white as a sheet, lying on a stretcher. When I go up, when there's a little break in the battle, to go up and meet Teji. And I know where Teji, because, it's a miracle, because his gunner got it through the chest, and Teji Sidhu was standing on top of him. And because you are related to him, I must share this with you.
yes,
If
go
it
ahead, sir.
wasn't for his height,
Yeah,
right, there would have been a different story altogether. So actually, his genes came in very handy. But while he was
okay,
lying on the stretcher, I walked up to him to ask him as to how he was, and I knew where exactly he was hurt. So I offered him a swig of the bottle of brandy, to
right,
which he said, "No, this is not the time I can have it." But years later, we used to fool around, and the joke among the young officers was, I don't know if I should say this on your TV, but maybe we'll leave it for another day.
No, go ahead, say it.
Okay.
It's a joke.
That uncle who had no balls, what would you call him?
Sorry?
The young officer.
Yeah.
Teji, I think you better describe that.
The shell went through my legs,
Okay, okay.
and you can well imagine what would have happened.
Right, right. Oh my God. Okay, so salute to you both for all your bravery, and which was displayed and demonstrated during the 1971 war. Thank you for joining, Uncle Teji, and thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. So, coming back to the book, Burning Chaffee's Brigadier Mehta.
Yeah.
I write books of real heroes. When I say real heroes, I'm talking about very ordinary people who are unsung, unheard, uncommon, people who are changing the world and the country and society every day. And that's the Karmakari book series, which are true stories of real heroes, whether it's Dashrath Manji or Subhashini Mistry, who's a domestic house help, who's built a huge hospital in West Bengal today, or Lakshman Singh, who has never gone to school or college, but has transformed over 500 villages from wastelands into wetlands and is an entrepreneur in his own right, having created livelihood and a life of dignity for over 1 million people. Subhashini Mistry used to be a domestic house help, and she, by working hard, washing people's utensils, clothes, and then in the evening, the night job as an entrepreneur, selling vegetables on the streets of Calcutta to raise funds to build a hospital, right? So she didn't have any VC funding, but today she's built a state-of-the-art hospital called the Humanity Hospital. So I like telling stories of these uncommon people from around the world, which we record. And I think, I think of myself as a historian for these unsung heroes who never get their recognition. And now, of course, after we started the Karmavir Awards a few years ago, today we have the Padma Awards, also kind of recognizing unsung heroes. So what was the inspiration for you to start penning the Burning Chaffees, and what is the central theme of the book?
Yeah, Jerry, the basic motivation is, the spoken word, to honor the spoken word.
Right.
Because soon after the war finished in 71, the regiment was moved from the eastern sector to the western sector.
Right.
This is even before the ceasefire on the western sector was declared, a day or 2 days later. We were already into the western sector, and we landed up in a place called Suratgarh. And by that time, the ceasefire had come into play.
Right.
Now, sitting in the desert in a 40-pounder tent, in the heat and dust and the moving and the shifting sand dunes and the flies and everything else connected with it. After the day's routine and whatever routine the regiment was following, by evening time there was virtually nothing else to do but to step into your 40-pounder tent and that ramshackle table and stationery borrowed from the regimental headquarters, right? And the commitment was that while we were transiting from the eastern to the western, the troops asked me कि सर आप हमने जो काम किया है उसके बारे में आप कुछ लिखो. So I made a commitment. I said yes, the valor and the sacrifice of the men will be recorded one day. But sitting in the desert, and because there was nothing much to do, over the next 2 months, that is in the early part of 1972, I was able to pen about 364 pages because I could recall every small incident. And the troops were also there. And wherever there was some doubt or element of suspense, one was able to cross-check and put the entire thing on record. Now, this particular document, my own Batman Sevadar, Massey, he was privy to it. Some of the young officers had read this, small accounts of whatever was handwritten. And then this particular book stayed with me for a long period of time. We were moving from one military station to another. And then I got married, children were there. I told them, I'm writing a book. And then I was transferred to another regiment. But then finally what happened was, virtually after in 2015, 1971 and then 2015, when I was out of uniform, the regiment invited me for their Golden Jubilee. And before that, they reminded me that this book is still pending. So I resigned my job as a Vice Chancellor, took a few months off, wrote this particular book, and it was first displayed during the Golden Jubilee. And then immediately after that, Knowledge World picked it up. And soon after that, Roy Kapoor picked it up for people. So the basic motivation was that the valor and the sacrifice of the men and the bravery, the way this particular regiment, which I had named it as Phoenix, because they had been this, this was the third time that the regiment was being re-raised, right? And I'd given it the name or the title of Phoenix.
Right.
So this
rising from the ashes.
Yeah, rising from the ashes.
Right.
And here was a case where even as a family, we were rising from the ashes, displayed in 1947.
Right.
Right. And then father passing away, which again meant virtually going back to the ashes and joining a regiment, right? Which was again virtually had to be brought up from the ashes. The other motivation for this was that the troops that I was commanding in the 1971 war were the OICs, the other Indian classes. These are those troops which the Britishers never permitted them to join as combat soldiers. So this was the first squadron of other Indian classes,
right,
which included all those who'd been denied the opportunity to fight for the country as combat soldiers, right? Because we had people from all over the country. We had people from Assam, we had people from Orissa, we had people from Haryana, we had people from down south, and we had people from, one or two Gujarati boys also. But this is the class composition, because so far the army had only heard of the bravery of the Gurkhas and the Sikhs and the Rajputs. So for the OICs, this was something special and which just had to be done. And to give it a particular prominence that now as an independent country, we are not really dependent on any class or community, but on an all India basis, this combination will stand up for the goodness and the greatness of the country.
Very nice. And that actually kind of also talks about the secular fabric of our country.
Yes.
Excellent. So what is the thought behind the title, the Burning Chafees? I know the Chafees were the tanks that the American-made tanks which were being used by the Pakistan. And what makes this tank versus tank battle unique? The way you presented in your book.
It's for a number of reasons that it is unique. Not only because it is a battle between two unequal tanks.
So are you saying that the Chafees were better tanks than the ones that we own?
The Chaffee was definitely a better armor-protected tank.
Okay.
Because as far as the PT-76 is concerned, the armor protection was virtually that the police has on their steel helmets, or the soldiers have on the steel helmets.
Right.
Because this was an amphibious tank.
Right.
With a light gun. Both of them had light guns. Right. But their armor protection was much better. And of course, the quality of the engine or the horsepower, that also made a difference. But why this particular battle is unique is because this was the only time in the history of tank warfare that a tank versus tank battle has taken place between two equals, virtually, a squadron on either side. And at the end of the battle, the complete 3 independent armored squadron is totally destroyed, all 14 tanks. And from our side, we've only lost 2 tanks. One in the tank versus tank battle and one in the air battle that followed on 22nd. Other reason was that this was being fought at ranges which were as close as 200 to 300 meters. And in one particular case, which has been mentioned in the book, a tank versus tank battle between my tank and one of the Chaffee tanks, it actually took place because of the heavy fog and the foliage in that particular area at 30 meters when both fired on each other virtually simultaneously.
Right.
Which I will, the extract in the book, which I will read to later.
Right.
And last part of it is why the name Burning Chafees was given is because on 21st evening, after the battle had subsided, we were able to, get back into some short harbor. And what we were viewing that particular evening, all our tank commanders sitting together and that bottle of brandy being circulated, what we were watching is these tanks on burning bright.
Right. Excellent. So that gives us a great insight into the title of the book and what made the tank versus tank battle so unique. And it's amazing the bravery of our soldiers to fight against those more powerful tanks. And I think that's a great story to be told. So
one more element I must add to this.
Yes.
One more element. This tank was actually a 3-man tank.
Right.
Whereas the rest of the entire Indian Army was used to a 4-man tank.
Right.
And a month before, we modified this particular tank and converted it into a 4-man tank.
Oh, wow.
Like Teji Sidhu told you that he was standing.
Right.
He was standing because the gunner seat had been modified for the commander to stand.
Good old Indian jugaad.
Yeah, good old Indian jugaad. But this led to, the casualty of the squadron commander.
Right.
And casualty as far as Teji Sidhu also is concerned. Because
which could have been more fatal.
Unlike the Chafees, we didn't have our cupolas down.
Right. And I think this will be a great experience to watch in the movie about how and again it proves that jugaad sometimes can be detrimental.
Yes. So here this is another case of innovation on the battlefield, where a 3-man tank has been converted into
4-man tank because you all had no choice because you all had to fight the enemy.
Yeah.
Right. And Teji uncle's injuries could have been more fatal as per what you're saying.
It was it's a case of misses as good as a mile.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that joke said it all. So the Burning Chaffies is the title of the book, and the
Yeah.
movie is called Pippa.
Yeah.
So what's the story behind the title of the movie?
Yeah. The story is that this was the first amphibious tank that had come into the Indian Army. In 1965, it was utilized in the Western sector, and it got a bloody nose, and some of these tanks were captured and displayed by Pakistan. And for 1971, this was passed on to these lighter regiments, new raisings. And
Right.
45 Cavalry was a new raising. And so these tanks were passed on to us. But the old timers, who had put in 15, 20 years of service, they were not accustomed to amphibious tanks. They were used to the Centurion tank. And many of them, therefore, did not want to continue serving in 45 Cavalry,
Right.
because this was a strange regiment, which was required to perform the role of the infantry because it had rifle troops. It had a lesser number of tanks on the strength of the regiment, 35 instead of 45. And then it was amphibious. That means you had to float sometimes into
Right.
tidal rivers and ponds to get onto the enemy. Now, because it was an amphibious tank, we, as soon as the regiment came into West Bengal, we had to give a large number of demonstrations. And once we were giving to a large collection, and the troops were mostly Punjabi troops, and for the first time in their lives, when they saw a tank floating in water, it reminded them of pipas that they had seen floating in the village ponds and things like that.
Right.
So one of the JCOs sitting next to the mic, not realizing that the mic was on, right? His surprise was, magnified by the loudspeakers. And all that he said was, Pipa tair raha hai. Pipa tair raha hai. That means Pipa is floating. And
Right.
Pipa then became a code word for the regiment.
Right.
And became, came into the army lexicon, in fact. And that is why the
Excellent.
name Pipa.
That's a great story. And how did this movie come into being? I mean, how did you start the dialogue with Ronnie and Siddharth?
No, this book had been picked up by them, by Siddharth's father,
Right.
and he passed it on to his son.
Right.
And the son, within the days of that, he asked me to come up and meet him in Bombay.
Right.
And he just had 2 or 3 questions, to clarify. And his over lunch, I mean, even before the lunch finished, he was quite clear, very clear-headed, and very, very, he's got the, the gift of being a great movie maker.
Right.
And by the time lunch was over, he said, look, this is the movie we're going to make. It's a story which has to be told. I said,
Absolutely.
look, but there must be other reasons for it. He says, look, this war took place in 1971. This is the untold story of 1971.
Right.
Because this army is more biased towards the north. We've been hearing so much about what happened in north. What did Pune Horse do and what did so many other regiments do?
Right.
But this biggest battle, right, which was, virtually became the start point of the 71 war in the East, has been, virtually unnoticed by the country.
Right.
Right, which is absolutely true. So the book really is, one is fortunate because the book has revived memories of this particular battle, and also how, in fact, our PM, Narendra Modi ji, has called it the biggest battle of the previous century because it was being fought for the human liberty and human dignity, especially of the 10 million refugees.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. Great. I must tell you that besides Deji uncle, my father-in-law, Colonel Randir Singh Grewal also participated in the war of 1971 and was responsible for the capture of Sylhet.
Okay, yes.
And the picture when they captured Sylhet holds a place of pride in our home, and so we are fortunate to have some very brave soldiers. So, sir, at this point, let me ask you to read some abstracts and excerpts from your book.
Okay.
Were you hold as most dear to you?
You have the time?
Yes, yes. Continue.
Okay. I'll try and make it brief, but I'll try
Yeah.
and make it interesting too.
Surely. Surely. And this is the book. It's The Burning Chaffies. I would request everybody who's watching us on Facebook Live and all the participants in the audience, do please pick up the book. It's available on Amazon and at leading bookstores. And the movie Pippa, which is based on the book, releases and hits the cinema halls on 9 December 2022. Over to you, Brigadier BalramSMehta.
This book has now been overtaken by the paperback edition done by Penguin Random House,
Right.
which is also available in Amazon and in various stores also. Yeah, the one here in the middle.
Right. Absolutely.
You were talking about the burning Chaffies.
Right.
So I'll just read out a small portion of how we as combat soldiers were viewing this particular thing. These tanks were still burning bright. I'm talking of the battlefield in the evening of 21st November.
Right.
These tanks were still burning bright. The wild tongues of flame had now subsided, giving way to an orange glow, which appeared brighter in the light breeze. There seemed to be a strange hypnotic charm attached to the bonfires, for the tanks were still burning, for I felt my eyes getting transfixed on the orange and blue of the flames, forming a rich hue. I kept watching these for very long, oblivious of my surroundings. There was a feeling of happiness and satisfaction that the enemy tanks were burning. And a little below that, I adjusted my overcoat against my shoulders, aware of the nip in the air. The thought of death crossed my mind. I had been face to face with death a number of times that day. But even when I had come close to it, it eluded me. What amused me considerably was that the face of death held no special horror. The face of death in the early stages of battle had invoked fear. The fear was no different from what one felt before entering the boxing ring. It was the fear of the unknown, which created a vacuum in the pit of your stomach, soon washed away after the first couple of blows were traded. The fear of death creates the same distressed feeling before the first few gunshots. The fear is apt to rise again whenever the mind and body are placed in a dangerous situation. However, the mind, having reacted to it earlier, learns to accept it with more grace under pressure. Death, once you have stared at it eyeball to eyeball, laughed in its very face, or felt it brushing against you, creates no panic. It becomes a way of life. And towards the end, I say, life in the possible contemplation of death becomes more enjoyable and more rewarding. No battle or no discussion on the battle of the war of 1971 will be complete without sharing with you as to what was the role of the Mukti Bahini. And
Right,
here's
sir.
one very, very interesting example of how an airman of Pakistan Air Force joined us to become a tank man.
Excellent.
Just before we resumed the advance, a middle-aged, short-statured, dark, stocky cyclist, frantically waving a paper in air, caught my attention. On getting off his bicycle, he saluted to announce that he was the ex-sergeant of the Pakistan Air Force. Anything I can do for you? I asked. No, sir. You're already doing everything for us. Give me a chance to serve you. With that, he handed over a piece of paper he had been waving earlier. It was a charge sheet in which his name, rank, and offense of inciting mutiny was mentioned. So, were you cashiered or dismissed from service? Neither. I have been declared an absconder to face court-martial and, under court-martial conditions, certain death if caught. Do you belong to this village? Sir, I belong to Naupara. I was born here. I told him in jest, but we will not be able to carry a bicycle. He burst out laughing. He yelled across in Bengali for two boys to appear and carry his cycle away. Tell me, Tell them I will stay with the tank regiment till the war finishes. He actually did. He turned out to be a devoted patriot and a big help. Being an ex-serviceman, he understood and willingly accepted the discipline imposed on him. He soon merged with the tank crew and even learned to load the gun and help the crew with odd tasks. His knowledge of local terrain and cross-questioning of locals to ferry and sometimes extract information proved invaluable. This devoted airman, true to his word, stayed with us until the end of the war to share with us the dangers and experiences without making any claims or demands. On one occasion, he even suffered minor burn injuries from the tank exhaust. On yet another occasion, finding the .30 mmg unmanned, he fired on the retreating enemy infantry. He was with the tank column on the day the surrender ceremony took place in Khulna. We congratulated him on the victory of the Allied army, and tears rolled down his cheeks. He did not want any certificate or citation for his contribution towards the war effort. That's it.
Brilliant, sir, and a huge salam, a big salute to all the brave men and people, including the men from Pakistan and from the Mukti Wahini who were fighting shoulder to shoulder alongside y'all. And a big salute to you also and to Teji uncle. There's something which you said which stayed with me, and I must take you to my book, which is launching soon. It's a book called Weekends with Zoe, which is a true story of a 16-year-old dying girl who appointed me as a life coach in the last few days, before she passed away. So these are weekend conversations which I used to have with her in the last 12 weeks before she passed. And the slug line for the book, if you see, which matches with what you said, is in our awareness of death is the meaningful journey of life. And I've changed it a little just last night. And I said, in the awareness of death, we find the meaning of life. And I relate this with what you said about when you see that so closely, how life becomes more celebrated. And to conclude, Brigadier Mehta, I would like to, invite you to share your thoughts about the process of writing. I had shared a PowerPoint with you about how to tell a good story, because we are rolling out a huge storytelling, and creative storytelling and creative story writing initiative in schools, and all our young authors and aspiring authors who are even watching us will benefit from this. I do a lot of research because I write non-fiction books and self-help books. But this is what Joseph Campbell calls as the hero's journey. A lot of script writers in Bollywood use the hero journey to actually tell a story. So even if you see this book called To Kill a Mockingbird, which is by Harper Lee, where you have the ordinary world where Atticus Finch is living with his children, is living a peaceful life, and then there's a call to adventure because a black man has been accused of rape, and Atticus Finch, who is a lawyer, has the opportunity to go and support him. And he's hesitant, the refusal, because he's white, and the black man who's accused of rape, in good old days, especially in places like Alabama, where the Ku Klux Klan was very strong, even if you wanted to support a black man, you used to be a little hesitant and fearful about it because it could have a backlash on you from the community. And that's the process that a lot of Hollywood scriptwriters follow. And every story has a hero, a villain, and a victim. So if I had to ask you to tell us, what is the process of writing that you followed while you were writing this book, The Burning Shaffies? What is the process that you followed, and how did you go about putting it together, right from the conceptual stage, right from inception to where it is today as a best-selling book published by Penguin, the paperback edition, and also being also made into a movie called Pippa. So please share this with us in the next 5-7 minutes so that our young aspiring writers who plan to write books or short stories can gain from your insight and your experience.
Jerry, I'll have to share this with you, that The Burning Shaffies was written based on a first-hand experience, a live experience lived through wartime,
right,
along with tank crews. So in this, there was no storytelling virtually. It was plain simple recording of events the way they happened.
Right.
The little difference between what was recorded as 364 pages and the book subsequently the way it has appeared is based on the long period of time that was available for thinking over it and redrafting it and re-redrafting it, plus also a fair amount of research material that was being released, particularly by the Americans and a large number of other books that were coming out. So bit by bit, one was able to put it together because at the back of my mind was that I've made a commitment which I'll have to honor one particular day. So it was over a long period of time, the determination to put as much of the information that was not available to us in 1971 as combat soldiers. So that was a big help. But what you just put on display is something that I'm going to read through, try and understand myself, and see as to how I can do it or utilize it for the book that we are about to publish now, as also the next book that I'm planning, which carries a very interesting, which you will enjoy hearing about. And I will utilize this particular model that you're talking of 5 Cs and everything else on display, and the book that you mentioned, after studying it more intensively.
Right.
Because the next book that I'm planning to work on is my experience as a combat soldier, as also having worked with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought in transcendental meditation across the world to see
Right.
and to
And you are a TM
explore.
practitioner also.
To explore, that's right. And to explore as to how a soldier who could, bring in EDI, bring in entrepreneurship, also, help run 2 universities, and then work with the Maharishi group to see finally how man can achieve bliss during his lifetime itself. So that's the book, or that's the thought that I'm working on. And
Right.
what you sent to me today is going to be studied in greater depth and understood.
Right.
And next time when we meet, we will be able to discuss the
Surely, I look forward to
the
that.
way
So
of-
we'll have a separate learning session on that, so that young authors and writers, aspiring writers, can benefit from your insight and experience. And of
Right.
course, To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic,
Yes.
just like The Burning Chaffee. So I'm sure that a lot of youngsters will benefit from your insights and ideas.
Right.
Right. So to come to the concluding part, Brigadier Mehta, I mean, you are doing so many things. You're a TM practitioner. You are doing work to inspire youngsters in Gujarat to join the armed forces. Do you want to tell us a little more about that, and then conclude with some compelling life lessons from your life journey, from your days in the army? Just 3 life lessons which we could leave the audience as behind with as takeaways, and then we shall pack up. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jerry, as far as Gujarat is concerned, there were very few people who were joining the defense forces earlier.
Right.
But with the help of a few friends that I have and the Jai Jawan Nagrik Samiti, which has been functional from the day the Kargil war took place, we've been able to a lot of motivation as far as the youngsters are concerned, because these functions, when they are organized, they are very, very popular events, and are the media also plays it up accordingly. Also, this book that we've been able to translate into Gujarati, this also has appealed to a large number of people. And what I can share with you immediately is, based on my own little limited research, when I joined the army in 1966, other than my father-in-law and, who was from Bhavnagar, KCIO, Major General Ghanshyam Singh, and one, or, not more than, say, a dozen Gujaratis were possibly in the officer cadre of the defense forces. Not defense forces, of the army. There were a few more in the Air Force, perhaps. But over the years, what I've noticed is that where earlier the vacancies used to go begging and were being picked up by UP and Madhya Pradesh and others, Now more than 70% of the vacancies which are allotted to Gujarat are being filled up by the people from Gujarat itself.
And that's a great story again, because one is reminded of that joke by Sam Manekshaw where he was addressing a public gathering at Ahmedabad, and he was told to speak in Gujarati, otherwise we are not going to listen to you. And he said,
Right.
well, friends, I wish I could speak in Gujarati. I learned Tamil from the Tamil sappers. I learned Marathi from the Maratha regiment. I learned Punjabi from the Sikh regiment.
Right.
I even learned Nepali from the Gurkha regiment, but I have never not met a person who could teach me Gujarati. But here you have a Gujarati soldier who's speaking to you and telling us about how he's inspired people
Right.
to join the armed forces from the Gujarat cadres. Great,
Right.
great. And that's a great story to be told again.
So now about 70% of the vacancies are being filled in by Gujaratis itself. My
Right.
own, this regiment 45 Cavalry, the OIC squadron today has about 20 odd boys from Gujarat.
Excellent.
Earlier there
Brilliant.
was none.
And I think that's yeoman service. Sir. That's yeoman service to get people from Gujarat to join the armed forces and create that balance. And to conclude, sir, 3 compelling life lessons that you learned along the way, which we could leave behind with our audience, our participants on Facebook Live, that they can have as a takeaway for the evening. 3 compelling life lessons.
One certainly is that life is a blessing and life is full of opportunities. All of opportunity. You have to look for it. Second is, where there is no way, or you feel that there is no way, then you should create a way or create a route, create that particular. So where nothing exists, you must create it, because somebody has to do that little bit of work. And one more thing that I can add is be bold, and always be bold. Because only by attempting, only by failing, only by trying, or try again, are you finally going to succeed. So be bold, create a route for yourself, create opportunities. Opportunities don't come ready-made. You have to create opportunities, create your own path, and keep at it.
Excellent. So to articulate the final takeaways is that life is a blessing. So be grateful, the attitude of gratitude, be grateful for a life, be grateful to awaken every day, to wake up every day. Second is something which we talk about in our Mojo Inspirator lessons, which are our life leadership and learning to learn lessons. And I couldn't agree more, is you are the creator of your own life. You are the creator of your own path. You don't need to follow the path which has been created by others. You don't need to follow the herd. Be that person who walks the path less trodden and creates your own path. And I think that's what creativity basically means. You create your own life. There is no preordained destiny or God sent kind of fate awaiting you. You can create your own fate. You can create your own destiny. And of course, be bold, be courageous, be brave, to stick your neck out, because if you don't do that, you won't make progress. You won't be able to grow in your life. And I think that's another great life lesson. The turtle cannot move forward without sticking the neck out, right? So to move forward in life, you need to stick your neck out. You need to be bold, like you said. So thank you so much, Brigadier Balram Mehta. It was a
And
pleasure.
last one, Jerry, that
Yes.
I've always shared with my young officers.
Yes.
You're the captain of your own ship and the master of your
Absolutely.
own destiny.
Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite poems, Invictus by William Henley, which is that you are the master of your destiny and the captain of your own ship. Excellent. Thank you, Brigadier Balram Mehta. Our
Thank
thoughts
you,
and our
Jerry.
sentiments and our mindset is so similar. We would love to involve you in our entrepreneurial work, and we will be in touch with you for that. But thank you for making the time to share your the story from your book and all the work that you're doing. And I'm sure that the people who joined us on Facebook Live have benefited in a huge way from it. So thank you so much, and namaste. Have a great evening.
Jerry, thank you.
My love and regards to all at home.
And your wonderful team. Thank you.
Yes, signing off, sir. Thank you.